Who Dat Nation, make that 3 in a row, baby. 3 wins in a row for the New Orleans Saints in the season that looked like they weren't going to win another game. And yeah, they're getting it done, man. Ever since Tyler Shook has come in, good things have happened. And they did what they had to do against a bad Jets team. I'll break that down. What was the good and the bad, and what the Saints will do going forward as they head into this week's game against the Tennessee Titans. I'll also preview that. This is the Saints Roundtable on a winning week, another winning week, 3 in a row, baby. Stick and stay. Let's get to it. Saints Roundtable. All right, so let's break it down here. So the Saints did what they had to do against a bad Jets team. Blew them out at home, 29-6. The final against a third-string quarterback in Brady Cook. He was not good. The Saints defense was all over him. Got 2 turnovers in this game and just completely dominated on defense. And for Brady Cook, he was 22 for 35 on his completions, 188 yards, 1 interception, and a pretty bad rating at 64.9. And yeah, they were just all over him. They pressured him from the start. He was looking like a deer in headlights out there. He was not good. Credit to Brandon Staley and the defensive coaching staff for getting him out of the game early, not giving him any confidence at all from the start. And the defense just dominated, and it was awesome. It was great to see. And it was just total domination. And the guy that they had to stop in the backfield was Breece Hall. He did not have a good game. They pretty much had him running in mud the entire time. He had 16 carries for 54 rush yards, and then had 9 receiving yards for a total of 63 total yards. So that's great. 63 total yards on both the receiving end and the rushing end is what you want out of a defense, and they completely took him out of the game. And he's the engine that makes that offense go, because the Jets' offense is not good to begin with. So if you can take him out of the game, then they're very anemic on offense, and that's exactly what happened. The defense just took over, and the Jets couldn't move the football. They got to the red zone twice, so you get to give them that. They just got to the red zone a couple of times, and they were 0 for 2 in the red zone, and the Saints defense was able to lock down when it mattered. But besides those 2 red zone possessions, they were kept out of the red zone for the entire time. They could not move the football. They were held on midfield every single time. A lot of punts for them. And yeah, they just were not able to get going offensively. And credit to the Saints defense for taking advantage of it and for dominating on that end. So it was great to see these young DBs, what the Saints have, are starting to really grow up, and they're starting to really build something. And the pass rush is doing their thing. Cam Jordan, man, it might be his final home game. We'll see if he calls it a career. All of his family was there, and he was able to get a couple sacks, and he was able to do his thing. And credit to Cam Jordan, man, an all-time great Saints player. They'll always love him in New Orleans, and he'll always be a native son in New Orleans. So credit to Cam Jordan. If this is his final game in New Orleans, then what a great game it was. Credit to you, Cam. And just overall, yeah, a great performance by the defense, and something to build forward to going into the next game at Tennessee. And yeah, ever since a couple of weeks ago, last couple of weeks, the Saints defense has really answered the call, and they're doing their thing. So great things to come for the Saints defense. And I'll break down the Saints offense coming up. This is the Saints Roundtable. Stick and stay. Now let's go to the offense that I would say played pretty well. I wouldn't say was great, but they did enough, and they were able to do their thing, and still scored 29 points. But a lot of field goals. There were a couple of things they had to fix when it comes to scoring touchdowns. But overall, the offense played pretty well in this game, and it really didn't matter because the defense was dominating so much that all they needed was a couple of points, and the Saints were just able to go home and get a win. And yeah, Tyler Shook was 32 for 49 in his completions, 308 yards. So that's good. He had good in the yardage department. 1 touchdown and a pretty good 89.5 rating. But there were a couple of plays out there that he left on the table. I think a couple of throws, and he was a little shaky. So this was probably far his worst performance in this 3-game winning streak that the Saints have had. But he still was able to do enough with his legs and his arm to get them the victory. And his chemistry with Chris Olave is really starting to blossom, man. Those two have really figured each other out. And Chris Olave is taking advantage of it, man. 10 receptions for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. One from Tyler Shuck, one from Taysom Hill on a trick play. And yeah, man, Chris Olave is thriving in this offense right now. He's really doing his thing. So credit to him. He's really taken over ever since Tyler Shuck has become the quarterback. And yeah, Kellen Moore really trusts him now. He's using him a lot in the offense. And yeah, Chris Olave is starting to become something. And what was questioned for him, is he a number one receiver? Well, he's answering the call right now, man. He's playing like a number one, and he's doing his thing. So credit to Chris Olave. And Steady Eddie, Juwan Johnson, man, he came through again. 8 receptions for 89 yards. He was able to move the chains. He was getting open against the linebackers, and he was taking advantage of the middle of the field. And he made a big play on the sideline as well for a big gain that really got the Saints going for their first touchdown. And yeah, he's really doing his thing. But the issue, they got to the red zone 3 times, and they were 0 for 3 in the red zone. That's got to be better. They got to clean that up, because especially going to Tennessee in this week's game on the road, you have to come through in the red zone on the road. You can do it at home because, yeah, you have the crowd behind you on defense, and they can help you on defense. But on the road, it's going to be harder for your defense to come through. So you need to score when it matters most in the red zone. And the Saints were not able to do that in this game. They were 0 for 3, as I said. So they got to clean that up. And I'm pretty sure Kellen Moore and Tyler Shuck are talking about that during practice this week, and they want to clean that up going into Tennessee for the next game. And just overall, solid performance by the Saints offensively. A couple things to clean up, but overall, man, this offense is really starting to pick things up. Tyler Shuck looks like he's the guy at least going into next year, and maybe going forward, depending on how he looks in the future. But yeah, things are on the up and up for the Saints, guys. 3 wins in a row and a chance for 4 against the Titans this week. And I will break that down. This is the Saints Roundtable. Stick and stay. All right, so let's break down this Week 17 game against the Titans, the Saints versus Titans in Tennessee. And yeah, a pretty level matchup here between two teams that are not going to compete this year. Obviously, not going to the playoffs, but the Titans are starting to really figure things out. I wouldn't say they're playing as good as the Saints are, but Cam Moore, their quarterback, he's really starting to play well. He's starting to really grow as a quarterback, and they're starting to really pick things up. So this should be a good test for the Saints to see what they can do going forward, going into next year, and possibly win a 4th straight. And the key here, of course, is that you got to contain Cam Moore, the first overall pick in this year's draft. He struggled quite a bit earlier in the year. Of course, for a rookie quarterback, it's going to take him time to learn things. But yeah, last couple of weeks, man, he's really starting to pick things up, and he's becoming a dual threat with his legs and his arm, and he's starting to get a connection with his receivers. And you cannot let him get comfortable because if you give him time back there, he's going to find somebody. He's a good thrower. He has a good arm, and he can become a real dual threat if you give him time. So the pass rush has to come through, and Brandon Staley has to mix up some good coverages to confuse him. Because if you play standard defense against him, he knows what to do. He was a veteran starter at the University of Miami, so he's read a lot of coverages, and he knows what to do. So the Saints defensive coaching staff has to do their best to get in his head and trick him and do what they can to contain him, because he can be a real electric threat at quarterback if you don't really game plan for him. So the game plan has to be good. And also the other guy got to stop is Tony Pollard. He was out to a slow start as well this year, but he's really starting to pick things up. He's a really good dual threat out of the backfield in terms of running the football and catching the football. He was really good in Dallas early in his career doing that. It took him a little while in Tennessee, but he's starting to really pick things up. Him and Cam Ward have really developed a connection. And yeah, if you let him out there in space, a lot like Bijan Robinson and those good dual threat quarterback running backs like Devon Achane, who ate the Saints up. The Saints have to be better against these dual threat running backs because they can really be explosive. So do not let them get out there in space, and you got to contain them and keep them out of space, because if you do, it's going to be a long night for the linebackers and for the secondary chasing these guys around. So Brandon Staley and the defensive coaching staff have to do their best to stop them. So it's going to be tough. But overall, yeah, pressure Cam Ward, get in his grill. Don't let him get comfortable, because his receiving core is not the greatest receiving core. It's pretty mid, honestly, if you want to be honest. So if you can make him force the ball and throw it to those guys, they're not really going to hurt you as much. But obviously the secondary still has to show up. Kool-Aid McKinstry and Alontae Taylor still have to do their thing. But it's not the greatest receiving core, so they should be able to hold up and do their thing. So you do all that. You pressure Cam Ward. You make him get the ball out quick and be out in traffic. You contain Tony Pollard, shut down the gaps. Don't let him be a receiving threat out of the backfield. You do all that, and the Saints have a really good chance to win their 4th straight. So we'll see how good the defense can play, and this is going to be a good test for the Saints to see if they can possibly win a 4th straight going into the final game of the season, on what they can build on something going into next year for the future of this team. And I'll break down the offense going into this game and what they got to clean up to be better. This is the Saints Roundtable. Stick and stay. All right, so let's close out the show with the offense as the Saints go into Tennessee. And yeah, they have a lot of things they got to clean up here going into this game. They scored a lot of points against the Jets, but there were a couple of possessions out there that were not the cleanest possessions. They were 0 for 3 in the red zone against the Jets. And going into this game on the road in Tennessee, you got to be a lot better in that department. So Tyler Shough and Kellen Moore need to get in the rooms together, and they got to figure out some plays that work better, because the ones that they used in the red zone against the Jets were not the best, and they have to be better in that department. So we'll see if they can do that going into this game. And to do that, continue to let Tyler Shough be a dual threat. He was more of a passer in the last game, and so Kellen Moore probably wanted to let him be more of a passer and see if he can really grow and develop in that department. But if you do that, you take away one of his big strengths, which is his running ability. So I think that Kellen Moore needs to let him run the football more, especially in the red zone, because he can really rush it, and he knows how to get out of harm's way, except for that one big hit against Carolina where we thought possibly he had a concussion. But besides that, he does a good job of staying out of harm's way when it comes to running the football. So I think in the red zone, Kellen Moore needs to use it more as a dual threat, run some quarterback RPOs, and let him do his thing, and just let him be free, because when you let him do that, he can be a really electric player when that's the case. So Kellen Moore let Tyler Shough do his thing, throwing the football and running the football, and keep getting the ball to Chris Olave, man. He's really figured it out. Him and Tyler Shough have really developed a really good connection here, and yeah, it continues to get him the football, whether it's in the slot, whether it's out wide, whether it's in the backfield, whatever it takes. Let him get out there in space and let him take advantage of the secondary and be an explosive threat, because he's really starting to blossom as the number one receiver on this team. So continue to get him the football, and of course run the football. Although like Alvin Kamara and Devin Neal are banged up, and they're pretty much having a bunch of practice squad guys run the football. But you got to continue to run it, because if you're just throwing the football every single time, it's going to be easy for the opposing defense to figure you out on offense. So they got to continue to run the football, and the offensive line has to create a lot of big holes and get some big gaps for these running backs to get loose for possibly Taysom Hill and a bunch of other guys in the backfield to be a good running threat. So you have more of a balanced offense, because if it's just passing, then we saw in the last game, there's times where Tyler Shough can be a little shaky just being a pure passer. So you have to continue to run the football and be a level offense running the football and throwing the football. So Kellen Moore should be able to do that, and you do all that, man, and the Saints have a great chance to win their fourth straight, possibly going into their fifth straight if they can get it done this week, and it'll be great to build on going into next year. And as we're seeing in this NFC South this year, the two teams at the top are not the greatest when it comes to record. So if the Saints can continue to build on what they have now going into next year and fix a couple of things on the team that needs to be fixed on roster wise, hey guys, the Saints could be back in the race here in the NFC South. I know it sounds crazy, and I know we didn't think that going into this season that it was going to take a couple of years, but as we're seeing with the way this team has played the last couple of weeks and what they're building and the young talent that they have, and with how mid the NFC South is right now, the Saints maybe have a chance, guys. So keep hope, and great things are to come for the future. And with that, I'm Alberto Lucero. This was the Saints Roundtable. I will see you guys next week, and go Saints, baby.